I'm Scott White.
Scott White.
Yes.
I am Boris. I am the gallerist of this building. Where were you born?
I was born on the east side of Cleveland.
And you've been an artist ever since you were a child?
Ever since. Yeah, my father is an artist. He's a carpenter, builder. So it's something that I was always around.
Okay, so show us your arm. So you are a tattoo artist.
I am a tattoo artist.
What came first? This type of art or the tattoo?
As a kid, I did a lot of painting. I did a lot of drawing. I started tattooing when I was 20, 21 years old. So the art came first, but I think at this point I identify it mainly as a tattooer.
You know, what we do here in this gallery is unique, I think, to the nation. We have a world-famous psychologist that comes and analyzes the art. And I was telling you a little bit about what Dr. Carmen McGinnis has said about these two powerful pieces, two of my favorites.
Well, thank you.
And you said you agreed with that it was about finding your inner freedom, the real you being trapped in this fake suburbia, blah, blah, blah.
Somewhat. I don't know about the society aspect. Most of
the birdhouses, you know, like if the bird is that part of you that is true.
I think for me, the birdhouses just kind of represent my home as a safe place. A place where I go home and I make art, and that's where I want to feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
And over the course of the last few years, I was struggling through some things, and I didn't really feel comfortable anywhere. I wasn't really able to work, so I haven't really been tattooing over the last 2 or 3 years. And looking at this stuff now, it kind of makes more sense to me as far as the mask, because I've identified as this person for so long.
That is that person.
I think so.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to put my foot down. That's it. That's you.
You know, I've identified as a tattooer for so long, and then not being able to tattoo, trying to find these other outlets for myself. It was a little bit difficult, and I think that's where that comes from, actually.
Let's tackle the white elephant in the room. How there are many people who see tattoo art, they don't see it as art.
Sure.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the origins of it. It's always been kind of a back alley sailor biker kind of thing. It wasn't until about the last 15 years or so that tattooing has turned into a legitimate art form. Kind of a global phenomenon at this point. It's one of the largest growing industries in the U.S.
I think I used to work with a designer called Danny Chimlovitz, and he creates living walking canvases in the sense that you wear his clothes, but you literally put your art on people's skin that they wear until they die.
Yeah.
So they're marked by you.
Yeah.
So do you feel that you have a tribe of your artworks out there?
Yeah, somewhat. I think so. I mean, I've been tattooing for 23 years. I've definitely built a large clientele and a lot of friends through it. I think most of the important people in my life I've met through tattooing.
Do you have a preference for one type of art, tattoo, or the other type?
Not at this point. I think now I've realized that I just need to make things, and I don't really. I love making tattoos and sitting down with someone and kind of bringing a concept to life, but there's still a retail aspect to that. Whereas with painting, I don't have that retail aspect. I'm not making things purposely to sell. So it is a little bit more liberating to start a painting. But it's different. It's kind of a different. There's a different beginning to each one.
How do you communicate with the people who want to either be tattooed by you or want to have one of your pieces?
How do I communicate with them?
Yes, in the sense like, is it, because one thing is to buy art off the wall.
Sure.
Another thing is to come up to you and say, I want your work on my body.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be...
I think a big difference between the two things is tattooing in origin is very working class, and art isn't. That's
an excellent point.
So there's there's a divide between the two. The divide is getting smaller.
But wasn't tattooing in its original, wasn't it almost a religious thing? Like a
Some
and
of
then
it
it's kind of
religious,
gone
cultural.
down, and now it's coming back up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say that.
I'm gonna finish this interview with one of my favorite questions. So
Okay.
put all ego aside,
Sure.
all right? Do you think your art is important?
I think my art is important to me.
Okay, fair enough. But why is it important to you?
At this point, it's what occupies my time most of the time outside of my family. Over the last 2 years, I've realized that when I'm not making art, I'm completely unhappy. So
It's therapy.
It is my therapy. Yeah.
Is there something that's happening in your life? A change that's coming? The bird that's trying to fly free? We're filming. We're filming. We're filming.
I had no idea.
It's okay. It happens. That was Richard Munster, a very well-known artist in town. So
Been
my
asked
question
to be
is,
interrupted by
of course,
a
we
better
were
artist.
by a celebrity. It's all good. So, is something happening in your life? Kind of a change coming?
Yeah. Well, I'm going through that now. I've been having issues with my hands from tattooing, which is why I haven't been tattooing over the last 2 years, which has kind of been the catalyst for a lot of this, which is kind of what goes back to me identifying as one thing, and now I'm feeling like something else out of necessity almost.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've
Thank
learned
you.
a lot.
You as well.
And thank you for being in our gallery. Thank you for being in Amanda's show. Absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you for having
so
me.
much. You will hear more from this guy. Adios.